Gifted as a mocking gesture by Vince McMahon to Mankind in 1998, the Hardcore title has become a perfect visual metaphor for the Attitude Era. Broken, violent, possibly stinky at times, it was carried by some of the hardest workers in the company, those willing to say f*** it to their health insurance and batter each other more than Scottish cooking, all for the sake of what began as a comedy belt. Now, some might argue that the quality of most hardcore matches was inconsistent at best and non-existent at its worst, but there were those who not only captured this tetanus alert title, but produced some excellent content for the company. So let's honor them today as we raise a blood bag in recognition to the title and to those mad f***s who put themselves through the grinder for our amusement. With this in mind, I'm Jules from WhatCulture.com, and these are the 10 best WWE Hardcore champions. Number 10, Tommy Dreamer. Not enough is said about Tommy Dreamer in this day and age when it comes to his impact on the wrestling landscape. The man was a world champion in ECW and was involved in some of the best storyline material that company ever produced. When he was shipped over to the WWE, it wasn't with the same heat, but he never shied away from putting in the hours when it came to reminding people that he was hardcore. While having 14 runs with the belt might sound like a lot, they were usually quite short-lived, but it was his last run that was the most important. Putting up the title against the IC champion Rob Van Dam in 2002, his loss marked the end of the Hardcore's belt time with the WWE. A sad time indeed, but it made sense. Dreamer was given a limited time to shine within the Hardcore division, but as his name as the innovator of violence suggests, he always made his mark. It's a shame that his version of the title looked dog shit though. Number 9, Maven. All you really need to know about Maven and the Hardcore Championship is that he first won it in February 2002 by beating The Undertaker, or as he then became known, the man who is going to knock the skeleton out of you goddamn bone by bone. Still, while Maven had all of his organs intact, this was the best moment of his career. He might never have been able to breach the mid-card to the upper platform, but his run with the title was perfect for his character. He was arguably pushed way too hard and fast, but this title is where he found more of an identity. It allowed him to settle with the fans and prove to those in the back that he could hang. And it also allowed us to have the comic moment of The Undertaker beating the ever-loving shit out of him as revenge. Number 8, Steve Blackman. Steve Blackman and hardcore moments go together like your mum and hardcore moments. There's my one per list. This man was Gagatha Christie for the old Ultra of Violence and is actually the superstar with the longest overall time with the belt. His mixed martial arts background was allowed to run free in this division, with his various use of weapons providing much of his match content. If he had a kendo stick in his hands, you were He was also an excellent obstacle for those working their way up the card and defended his title with venom. There's no greater example of this than the SummerSlam 2000 match in which he dove down right after Shane with an elbow drop, all in pursuit of that broken belt. Number 7, Jeff Hardy. If you made a list of the most extreme moments the company has ever produced, the younger Hardy brother would probably feature in at least half of them. From getting broken in half by Edge during TLC 2 at WrestleMania X7 to jumping off a production truck and onto Umaga years later. These moments are emblematic of the sort of attitude he embodied and why he was perfectly suited for the Hardcore title. In total, Jeff wore the belt 3 times, and just for the total of 18 days, and yet he's responsible for at least 2 of the best 3 or 4 matches in its history. Always looking to shake up the formula, Jeff was willing to strengthen the title by showing how far he would push his body to breaking point in order to get it. Number 6, Big Boss Man. Considering that more than half of the 252 Hardcore Championship reigns lasted less than 24 hours, Big Boss Man deserves huge props for holding on to the thing for some 97 days. That's the longest run that any wrestler managed over the belt's near 4-year history, even if it was before the 24/7 rule was in effect. And it was during this time that the BBM managed to enact his most heelish and mental plans. First, he fed the remains of Al Snow's Chihuahua to him in a moment that would have made Eric Cartman proud, and then he managed to take the Big Show's dad for a spin in his coffin with Paul White attached. Both were in such bad taste, but then again, this is what the Attitude Era was, in your face, with some violence thrown in to hold it all together. Number 5, Al Snow. On paper, Al Snow carrying around what he believed to be a sentient mannequin head was stupid. In reality, it was stupidly brilliant. The further this man descended into madness, the more fruitful his run with the WWE became. Between 1999 and 2002, he held the Hardcore Championship 6 times, becoming one of the division's great flag bearers alongside Crash Holly and Raven. I just want to put out how much of an underrated star this man was, and the work that he's done on and off camera is pretty impressive. His runs with the Hardcore titles were always filled with hilarity and aggression in equal measure. So what do we want? More love for Al Snow. And also head, I guess. Number 4, Mankind. As aforementioned, Mankind was the very first hardcore champion, and it was long known that he had a bit of a bonk-on for bashing other people. So it made sense that he would be the first to hold the belt. Now, it was meant to be a joke, a token of contempt, but the crowd loved Mankind so much that the division became a tuning-in point for the company. It's also really surprising to know that Mankind only held this belt once, and he never even beat anyone either. Yet that's not actually the point, as the real respect for Foley comes from what he did before this division actually started. His love of pushing his body to the extreme, of finding new ways to destroy himself for the sake of entertainment, is why fans gravitated towards him. His style was unique and brought the concept of what hardcore was into the WWE. Therefore, it's not about what he did with the belt, but how he got the company there in the first place. Number 3. Rob Van Dam. Whatever your stance of RVD's love of gardening and his green thumb, one thing is for sure. He was one of the standout stars of ECW and WWE in his time with both companies. He pulled in audiences with his charm and then backed it up with his skill. One of the most athletic and technically sound wrestlers of his time, he picked up championships wherever they were any going. His IC title run was the one that ended the Hardcore Championship, and there seems to be little better person for it to have finished with. RVD was the ECW golden boy and had built up a reputation for hard knocks, so for it to grace his shoulder before being sent to the ether makes perfect sense. Maybe it's a little sad too if you think about it, as it actually showed a transition of the underground dirty wrestling style of old to a more corporate and homogenous style. But let's not think about that. Number 2. Crash Holly. Crash Holly is technically the best and worst thing to happen to the Hardcore Championship. On the negative side, his botched loss to Hardcore Holly at WrestleMania 2000 is so funny to see now, as it's monumentally awkward. Crash struts off, likely dazed from the forearm of Bob Holly, thinking he'd won the match. Then he's stripped of the title before Jim Ross asks whether they're having a reverse decision or not. It made the division look terrible and sloppy, a feeling that wrestling purists have been thinking for a while. However, at his best, Crash was a perfect vehicle for the belt. He ushered in the 24/7 rule, which fundamentally gave the division its real potential, and his underdog character meant that a simple story could be told again and again, but with a great payoff each time. He'd begin the night, lose the belt in some way, then find a way to sneak a victory back in and run away into the night. A cheekier whippet there never has been. And number 1, Raven. Raven held the Hardcore Championship a grand total of 27 times. Now, true, most of his reigns were short, but the former ECW star lived every moment of his time in the Hardcore division. This was his niche, allowing him to invent crazy violent spots, tell a darkly comic in-ring story, and in rare instances nearly cut out the entire power to the promotion's venue while behind the wheel of a golf cart. If you want an example of Raven's hardcore pinnacle, then check out his match against Rhino at Backlash 2001. This wasn't just mindless weapon shots for the sake of it. The pair actually tried to work a match instead of just senselessly beating each other up for 10 minutes. Raven was about the style of his matches, but wasn't afraid to put the hours in to sell that his encounters should be viewed alongside the less blood-filled regular content. Plus, no one is ever going to forget the shopping trolley moment. That was utter genius. Hey guys, thanks for making it to the end of the video. Aren't you a star? Don't forget to like, share and subscribe below, and also there's probably more content floating up above my head, so why not check that out as well? Could be a laugh. Probably. 6 out of 10.